I was the press officer a couple of years ago. I've been running around this year, or at least early in the year, with the Argo Challenge for the America's Cup. And Argo was an international team of sailors and athletes with physical disabilities. And it was never known by anybody whether Argo would be a defender or a challenger for the America's Cup. Our skipper was Lars Grail. Lars is from Brazil. He lost his leg in a boating accident back in 1998, and despite that has the best record of any skipper in the star class at the 2009 and 2000 specialist in 2008 for sailing at the Olympics and the Paralympics. So and then in 2009, shortly following the Olympics, I went down to the Louis Vuitton Pacific Series. So I've been pretty close to the cup for the last couple of years. But I do want to see tradition. Tradition with the J-class boats, tradition with the tall ships, and the classic yachts, and for that matter, every other sailboat under the sun in the United States. Some people say that the America's Cup is just is the purview of the billionaires. Well, Sir Thomas Lipton wasn't always a multimillionaire. As a matter of fact, he came from very humble means to become a multimillionaire with his grocery stores. And the America's Cup was on pretty bad times back then, and had it not been for Lipton and his persistence, perhaps the America's Cup would have died way back then. Back then was Intrepid versus Courageous. Now, Intrepid was a wooden boat that was funded through a tax shelter where they could collect everything from $1 bills. I have a little quote in here from a 10-year-old boy sending in $1 to help the campaign versus the Courageous campaign, the glass boat. And it was just a very, very intriguing campaign. So again, I'm more of a believer in bring the cup to the people, and as a matter of fact, the America's Cup Event Authority just within the last couple of days has said, we want to go out to the public now and try to get their opinion of this tiny little tarnished trophy. It's called the New Zealand Cup. And I would argue that most of the economic development that has been done for this 34th America's Cup has been done in New Zealand. We've had the boats, the AC-45s, built down in New Zealand. We've had the media testing done down in New Zealand. And if you go virtually anywhere in the United States and you talk to people about the America's Cup, and even if you go to San Francisco and you talk to people on the street in San Francisco and ask them any kind of question about the America's Cup, most of them would not know that the America's Cup is going to take place there or when it will take place. The Dogzilla boat that was down here for a number of months, probably about 2 years actually, on and off, was delivered to Pier 80 in San Francisco. And it remains in a warehouse in Pier 80. And I would call that boat one of the, I would call it the eighth wonder of the world. You know, the waterline length, 90 feet. It's got a wing that is 1.8 times the size of a Boeing 747 wing. You guys, I'm going to venture to say that even those of you who are not from San Diego came down to see the boat. It would be, you know, San Francisco is such a tourist town that it should be on display on Pier 27, Pier 29, which I think would fit right in, right now. And everybody who comes to San Francisco to visit would go there just as they go to the seaport. I think you get there by having a Defender selection series. Okay? Right now, the defender of the Cup is Oracle. We do not have any other defenders in the United States. So I think what you do is you have a Defender selection series, and you have events around the United States, whether they be in Newport, Annapolis, Charleston, Beaufort, Miami, Chicago, Detroit, San Diego, Ventura, Santa Barbara, somewhere central California coast, and go on up to San Francisco. And engage those waterfront communities, engage all of the yacht clubs in the United States, engage the tall ships, engage the J-class boats, and have these 10-day-long festivals, maritime festivals that will bring people out. Okay? This is Rhode Island, going back to economic development. Rhode Island's not hosting the America's Cup right now, but they did put a yeoman's effort together in very little time. And you fly into Bradley Airport, there's a sailboat in the airport. Everybody coming through by plane is going to realize they're going to make the connection that there's sailing going on in the state. Right? Get the J-boats engaged. I ran into, when I was in Newport a couple of weeks ago, I ran into people who came from the Mississippi Gulf, from Tampa, from England, came 500 miles out of their way by boat to see these J-boats sail. Well, I love the tradition of the 1930s J-boats. Get them involved some way. Make them feel important, because they are. People come out for this stuff. Okay? Argo was, again, the team of athletes and sailors with physical disabilities. There are 54 million people in the United States that are disabled. There are 1 billion on the planet. That represents the opportunity for sailing to be introduced to a larger audience than sailing ever has been. There are 40 million African Americans in the United States, probably over 1 billion on the continent and 500 million as part of the diaspora. China, we have a China team, 1.3 billion mainland Chinese, and we can spark these. Say we have another team in San Francisco Bay. Say you put them in Alameda, where the Naval Air Station was closed, and now they've been trying to release it for years and years. Put them in a hangar where the deep water slip is. Create a crosstown rivalry, okay? Now put another team down in Santa Barbara, Ventura, Oxnard, down here, Long Beach, wherever it happens to be. Create a North-South California rivalry.